Greetings. So, the kit is out, and I reviewed it. So, let me talk to you about G-Lotan. What do I think after reviewing her kit, where she's gonna fall on my tier list? There is no doubt about it. It's either straight up C tier, with Monchette and Polish providing no utility and not a lot of damage, or A or S tier for the general tier list. Now, for the whale tier list, which I'll just mention offhand right now, she's probably going to be A to S tier whaled out compared to other damage carries. Now, for most players, I think or unless she turns out that she does more damage than traditional meta DPS, like in order for her to beat C tier, which she might, because I can see three things about her kit that is new that could be bugged or broken on release, like Pontos. Now, she gives basically little to no utility. All she does is a lot of damage, and she kills you. And the Divine Chaos, I checked it out, is worse than real pure chaos. So it's just the thing of the pure realms. It's not the worst pure realm, but I'm going to go over why the pure chaos is so bad. However, she is one of the stronger whaled out units. Now, before all the fucking retards go in here, yeah, she's strong whaled out. For most players, I think she's probably going to be weak unless a few of the things that I'm going to mention here is extremely broken. Because you need E3 at least to play her how she's intended to be played. E2 is usable. You cannot play her without E1 or E2. It is extremely difficult to play her without E1 or E2. Those are mandatory, and E3 makes her smoother and makes her do twice as much damage, basically, on her Exalt. So, I wrote down my findings here on my spreadsheet. I compared them. So, let's go over the noticeable facts here. So, attributes, her main stats. She is now the highest main stat unit in the game for attack. The previous title was held by 24. Because these are her stats at level 60, if I'm not mistaken, with 203 attack. And yeah, and it's different from Lotan. So this is a departure along with G Murphy from their statting of regular units and G units. Because regular Lotan does not have sigil yield or DR or these main stats. It's like she's a completely different unit. Now, the only thing she has in common with Lotan is her realm and her cards and main gimmicks. Because I have Lotan's gimmick right here, so we can compare. Like, they clearly take inspiration, but it's the first time that the main stat is a complete departure along with the wheel. Now, let's get on to the big bread and butter, Divine Chaos, and why it's bad. So let me just pull up the bigger image so you guys can read along with me. Because I did the math on this. It's worse. It's one of the bad ones. So base key flare increased to 2,000. This is bad. So it means you need 2,000 key flare in order to exalt. The current base is 1,000. Team damage amp is increased by 50%, and all attackers' attack and defense increased by 10%. Now, this is similar to the other Divine Realm effects, Divine Blue, etc., with the team damage amp, Divine Ultra. And if it's all Chaos Awakers, the damage amp bonus from this effect is doubled. At the start of battle, gain 2,000 key flare. So to compensate for it, at the start of every battle, you're guaranteed a Posse or Rouse. So, all Awakeners key flare levels are set to team average and no longer decay. What does this mean? I don't know if you guys know this, but there is a slight key flare decay. No one gives a fuck about that. No one gives a fuck about that. Let me tell you, no one gives flying fluff fuck about that in game. You can just ignore this no longer decay. It's basically almost one to one if you're building your team right. Now this is bad. This is very bad. So to compensate, the first command card played by each Awakener per turn grants Key Flare equals to Team Key Flare regen times 3 plus 100. So currently, your the Key Flare wheels are very important. However, we're gonna see if this is bugged. There's a few things I think they're gonna have this bugged. I think there's no way this is not bugged on launch. I don't trust the devs enough to not bug this effect on launch. So on average, if you're playing for a D-Tide, this is awful. This is god awful. If you're a D-Tide endgame gamer, if you're using G-Lotan for your main team, it's good. Y-Flares is as good if it's main team or not. Because on your main team story, you have all the extra Key Flare wheels. You have the best Key Flare wheels. You have the best possible team. On D-Tide, you're running 5 to 10 teams. You're going to have all your Key Flare wheels spread out. There's not enough Key Flare wheels for 10 Key Flare teams. Okay? And if you're making this one of your 10 teams, you're going to use scraps. So your base team Key Flare regen might as well be 0. So rather than have one super Key Flare, your Key Flare is going to be pathetic unless you waste a lot of Key Flare wheels on your Key Flare team for D-Tide. Complete dog shit. So just don't think if this is one of your fodder teams, the last team you're running on D-Tide, not one of the first teams, you're going to either use too much Key Flare wheels on G-Lotan or use none and never manage to Posse outside of the initial Rouse or Posse. So this is ridiculous right here. And this, Indivisible Realm. So no longer triggers other realms' Pure Realm, Double Realm Master, or Double Damage Amp effect. So this is to prevent it from being used with other Divine Realms combined for the full Divine Realm bonus. Because if you mix Pure Chaos, Real Chaos, with Divine Blue, Divine Ultra, Divine Carol, they keep all their realm effects. Now with this, it no longer keeps the pure realm effect. So, this is a nerf. I don't know if I need to spell this out for you. This is awful. So that means you can't do the pure mixing. They want you to do pure, unless you take the big hit. What does it mean? You can't go mix Divine Blue. It hurts theory crafting. They should have kept this. This is awful. Because it hurts theory crafting because you could have mixed it with Divine Blue for the Divine Blue shield. You could have mixed this with Divine Ultra for the Arachne damage amp. But now it's weaker because it doesn't count as chaos. It might as well be a completely new realm for all I care. So yeah, bad. This is the nerf Divine Chaos. I don't know why they're all nerfing these realms and changing up the realms like this. I have no idea. So, what are the benefits for these 2 nerfs? Because this is 2 nerfs. Oh, actually 3 nerfs. Key Flare increased to 2,000. This is 3 nerfs. So, right now, they're going to list the buffs. The differences. So, every time you play a Rouse card, every Rouse card is now Prepare 1, which means that every time you Rouse a unit, every turn their Rouse card gets 1 mana cheaper. That's good. When you play the Rouse, it unleashes your equip Posse. Sure. This is bad. This is bad. I'll go over that. Memory Fragments. Posse replaced with Primordial, the Dual Recurrence, and Triad Revelations. Now, Dual Recurrence is double Posse, which is what we normally use in Mono Chaos. Random. Choose 1 to unleash twice. However, it does not have the pure Chaos benefit of deleting that Posse forever. So next, Primordial Triad Revelations. Discover 3 sets of Posse from those in hand, each set containing 3 different Posses. Choose one set to unleash each Posse within it in sequence. And if those of you guys who are thinking, oh my gosh, Flares, this is broken. How come you didn't think of it? All these Posses in use. This is a G-Ramona. This is a Chaos 24 comp. I thought the same thing until I read the next line. Dual Recurrence and Triad Revelations only count as unleashing one Posse. When their effects would trigger multiple times, only the first Posse to take effect is valid. Yeah, this killed all the fun out of theory crafting. This killed all the fun. Why? This just makes it pure RNG random with little to no benefit. Because I guess you guys should have realized it, unless you're following some other dog shit creator who probably doesn't realize it. So, you can't control what posses you unleash every turn. And your equipped posse, the only way to unleash it is to Rouse card, prepare 1. The current or equipped posse is automatically unleashed the first time they are played each turn. So, based on reading this, your equipped posse only equips when you play a Rouse card, from what I understand. So that means you cannot use your posse every turn. Because you're not going to rouse every turn. It's going to get harder. And plus, there's only 4 units to rouse unless you're playing Miriam, and that's an additional 3 rouse cards, or additional 2 rouse cards. So you're only going to get, at max, your equipped posse 4 times. You cannot control. Well, actually, you can. One they are used. So this kills a lot, actually. What if you want to play your Rouse card and not Posse? You can't do that. So that kills a lot of Posse options. Because as we're going to Theory Craft and talk about her kit, there are a couple of times where I'm going to go like, oh, if you run this Posse, it will be good. You're not going to use that Posse when you want it. It only triggers when you use a Rouse card. You have to rely on this random Posse to get you started. And unlike Mono Chaos, where it deletes the Posse, and you can choose which Posse to double trigger, this is random. And it doesn't delete the Posse from the thing. So it benefits new players without a bunch of shit posses to clog your posse list. And let's go over the final thing. Realm Mastery becomes Chaos Mastery. Each point increased posse effect by 0.05%. So if of 100 Realm Mastery, it's going to be 5%. It's useless, or 10%. This is basically useless. You're still not going to run Realm Mastery. You're going to run Sigil on G-Lotan and Keyflare and DR and everyone else, because you're going to die over and over again. Unless she does enough damage to compensate for all this. Now that's Divine Chaos. That's Divine Chaos. So does her kit compensate for all of the downside and upsides of Divine Chaos? Is what we're going to talk about. So, her Exalt. I want to read out this for you. I did the math as well. Consumes Great Blade Windfall. Now, I'm going to skip over the Exalt because I need to explain to you how to generate Great Blade Windfall and what it does. Great Blade Windfall is a new unplayable card that you can generate if you're playing G-Lotan. What does it do? All enemies do 25% more damage to you. That's the negative effect. However, all of Lotan's command cards, meaning her strikes, her skill cards, becomes deadly duel. At the start of each turn, draw one deadly duel and force retain. Now, I'm going to talk about force retain. Now, this is a newer a affix. So what I assume it is it's retain, but you can't discard it. Is what I assume this means. It better be what it means. It better be you cannot discard this card. I'll be so fucking mad if you can discard. Hopefully that's what force retain means. Now, this is deadly duel. Draw one card. It costs 1 mana. She steals up to 10 Alimus from every other Awakener on your team for 30 Alimus. Again, her base Alimus is 200. So you need to play this a lot in order to get to fill her Exalt. It's going to be quite difficult. You need a lot of mana. Probably Saya's fucking wheel to get the 1 mana. She's a very mana hungry unit. So, Primeval Return. Lotan gains 50% base Alimus for her Rouse. All of her cards do +1 instance of damage. Really good Rouse. You want to rouse her. At turn start, if Great Blade Windfall is in hand, the first deadly duel that turn empowers your next Mundus Severance, her Exalt. For each 1 Alimus it steals, Mundus Severance deals 1% final damage. This is great. 90% max. So basically 3 triggers. 3 deadly duels. Or 3 turns. So this is over 3 turns. You cannot play multiple deadly duels for it to trigger on 1 turn. It needs to be 3 turns after generating Great Blade Windfall. It's a lot of conditionals. She's a lot of conditional unit. Now let's go to Long Blade Perish. Counts as strike. I guessed this completely. So you go to my guess where I completely guessed her kit based on nothing. So I got like 40% right. So both these cards are count as strike, just like base Lotan. And one's an AoE, one's a hit triple, just like base Lotan and gain strength. I was actually pretty on the nose about that. And I was on the nose about strike defense drawing a card too. So this is AoE damage, 500% strength bonus, retain. Each strike played this turn, next Long Blade Perish costs 1 less. So this is her bread and butter AoE. Doesn't auto crit, doesn't do anything. It does a lot of damage, 500% strength bonus. So, Short Blade Devourer, which is what you would want to use. So this deals 102 damage 3 times to a random enemy and gain 25 strength. After being played, shuffle this card back into your draw pile. Every 3rd time this card is played, it triggers 1 additional time. Then, the next Long Blade Perish, played this turn, will fuse with this card to forge a Great Blade Windfall. So, in order to make a Great Blade Windfall, which is her whole bread and butter, you need to play this card 3 times. And every time you play this card, it goes back into your draw pile. Now, this has the potential to be broken. I don't trust developers to not create this and not make it bugged like they did Pontos. Like, I found a bug, and within 4 hours, they patched it, the to will bug. And I showed it on video and on stream. All those guys who are in my Discord. The to will bug was patched in the first couple of hours. And then there was the Pikmin blood. The dragon discovered it. Shout out to the dragon. I always credit people who discovered it on my channel. That was patched. And there was another bug they patched. There was like 3 Pontos bugs they patched. There's still actually 1 or 2 more, but they're really minor. I'm too lazy to make the video on it. It's like no one would use this, but it's a bug technically. But I'll do it later. But this is very easy to trigger as long as you have Hamel to will if you want to use her with to will, or G-Ramona or dies. Because there's so many reasons where this can be broken. Cassia, Arachne. I'll test and go over all of it. I'm not going to list it all in this video. But if you didn't think about it, like shuffling this back in your draw pile raises up a lot of questions on what this could mean. Like, we know what it means, but what it could mean for the combo. Like, right now, you need to play this 3 times. So, with a dies, for example, let's just take dies. If you dies Exalt, very first turn, you draw this card. You get Great Blade Windfall. Very first turn. Because dies will generate 2 of these, 0 mana. So, 1, 2, and plus the original one. Boom. Very first turn, you get Short Blade Devour. And with dies, you play a 0 mana, 2 mana. 0/0/2 for 3. For 3s, plays a strike, so it makes Long Blade Perish 1 mana. So that's 3 mana, and you can fuse it very first turn if you have dies Exalt. So that's an example, but everyone wants fucking dies. In order to deserve dies, you need to do enough damage to deserve dies. Okay? So, strike and defense without her Enlightened, useless. Now let's go over the Exalt. So knowing that, the Exalt potentially has the opportunity to be the strongest Exalt in the game. Because it is the Exalt with the most unique modifiers. The previous Exalt with the most unique modifiers was Doricine. What do I mean about unique modifiers? I mean modifiers that stack on top of each other. That isn't one big modifier. So how many unique modifiers does her Exalt have? First, you have the guaranteed crit damage and the 1500% strength bonus, which is more than the Doricine strength bonus. And then it has a new unique modifier. For every 1 damaged Great Blade Windfall is causing the target to do to you, her Exalt does 75 more damage. That's another unique modifier. Now, next, her Rouse. For every 1 Alimus it steals, Mundus Severance does 1% final damage. It has the final damage modifier. That's easier to achieve than the Doricine modifier. Now, that is it for the base free-to-play Loton. That's the free-to-play Loton. That's already 1, 2, 3, 4 modifiers. Now, next, we're going to talk about her Enlightens. You have to get her at least E2 or E1. She's one of those heavy invested units where we just got Pontos, which is usable but not as good until E3. And the same as a lot of units. Like, this is why I rate her probably C tier. On top of Divine Chaos, on top of no utility. There's a lot of downsides for her for a new player. I want to be honest with you. She's not a good pool for new players at all. Unless she does a shit ton of damage. And even then, I would rather you pull on other units, maybe other DPS that can fill more teams. Because right now, I can tell you straight up that if you pull on her, it's going to take so much resources for a new player to gear her up for endgame. She's going to demand a couple of supports, and your early game scaling is going to be so low. You're going to have no HP. You're going to have no HP early game when you're tackling the harder content, taking 25% more damage, having less Keyflare wheels, having less wheels in general, having not that good covenants, all those factors, and requiring this many dupes. It is not a recommended for new players. Unlike other content creators, I tell you, my tier list is for what you should invest with general tier lists. I'm not like those fucking retards who need plus 12 to clear. I show my clears before I whale out, before I dupe them up. And I list on my spreadsheet what the minimal investment to clear Alert 5 that I have done or that someone I've coached has done on stream. So it's all verified. Every single Alert 5 clear, what you need for each carry, is shown on my spreadsheet. So right now, before the release, I can say I do not think it's good for new players. Now, if you're a veteran player, she's going to be one of the strongest units whaled out or invested in. Okay? But for new players, G Murphy is going to be stronger than this and provide more utility and can be used in any other team. For example, as an example here. So I'm going to go into why. First, you need her E1. You notice while I was going over all of her kit, the only guaranteed crit was her Exalt. Now, a couple of recent units have guaranteed crits or more crit rate bonuses. Now, this is where you're going to need to get your crit rate from. Her E1. Strike crit rate 10%, base damage 20%. You can ignore the base damage portion because you have enough base damage already. And every 1% sigil yield equals 0.5% crit rate. Now, this is bad and good. Bad and good. Why? It only gives a 0.5% crit rate and 1% strike bonus. So let me go in-game to explain why it's sort of bad and good. And let me go over the key flare real quick. So this is a main team, for example. And even then it's bad. So 95 key flare, 43, 26, 97. So it's 250, give or take. It's going to be less than that when you're running G-Lotan. And again, base key flare, 1,000. So basically just going to be half a bar. So right now, at doing this card, we get a decent amount of key flare, 95. So if you're having a G-Lotan team, period, you already know that one of the slots is filled by G-Lotan. So that means she's going to run no key flare because you're going to run your damage shit on her. One slot is going to be your key flare bot or your old key flare bot. That slot, let's just say 100 key flare. And you're going to have 2 other units. So on average for the regular player, that means that your team average key flare is going to be 50 to 100. 50 to 100, leaning towards 50 to 66 is what I mathed it out to for the average key flare on a team. So times 3, 150 plus 100, 250. So that is the team average, 250. Every card, that means that every card you play, every unit is 250. So let's just use that as a baseline. So that means if you play every Awakener's card, 4 units, 250 times 4, 1,000 key flare. That's half of a key flare bar per turn for the first card played. It is so bad, Divine Chaos. So that it's, I don't even need to explain much. It is very bad compared to the traditional ways that you use it. Because again, if it was just that, it's good. It's 1,000 key flare. It's great flare. So we're talking about. Again, your key flare max is increased to 2,000. Is increased to 2,000 per Exalt. So that's what you have to account for. So we'll see how it feels in game, but on paper, it's pretty bad so far. So what else are you doing for? Sigil yield. That's right. So let's go over the sigil yield for covenants and whatnot. So how does it compare to crit rate? So a crit rate wheel plus 12 is 28.8%. A sigil yield wheel is 21.6 for a plus 12. The scaling is the same for this. It's just half. So the point being is that you don't have that much crit rate. You don't have that much crit rate here. You have no crit rate if you go full sigil yield. So it's probably the play to not run it. Like, this is probably going to be a meta wheel for Lotan if you have Riker wheel plus 12. Riker wheel plus 12 or Salvador wheel. Salvador wheel is probably going to be her long-term best in slot for ease of use. I want to tell you right now, Salvador and Riker wheel. Those are two to look out for. Why? You notice the lack of fucking crit rate, even with the sigil yield scaling? Yeah, Salvador wheel fixes that. At the end of odd turns, the wielder's crit rate plus 6%. So it's permanent. At the end of even turns, it buffs your crit damage, and you gain key flare. So, this, you can ignore the shield gen and HP recovery. This, if you really, really need the crit rate, this is where you're going to get it from. Or from the Riker, each relic, for the long stages. So, these two are pretty good. Along, if you have either plus 12, because you need her wheel. If you have either of these plus 12, is what I would use. But I don't have plus 12 for them. I don't like whaling that hard, dude. So, unless you have her wheel plus 12. So, let me go back and explain it again for, some retard who's going to copy my content like they always do. So, go back here. Every 1% sigil yield only gives half of the crit rate for strike. So it's not 1-1. And remember, sigil yield, you get less sigil yield on the covenants and on the and on the wheels than if you were to go for crit rate. So it's already worse. So it's better, if you want crit rate, it's better to go for crit rate. And the max, let's say you fully whaled out, is 21.6 times 2 for double plus 12 gold wheels. And it's plus for wheels, for covenants, it's like 50 to 60% if you go all out. So it's, let's say, 100% sigil yield. You're never going to hit 100% sigil yield unless you're like a giga whale. You whale so hard, like you're on Epstein's Island, okay? If you ever been to Epstein's Island, you will have 100% sigil yield. If you have 100% sigil yield, your crit rate on your strike is 50%, which is good. If you're on Epstein's Island, it's 50% crit rate. It's 50% crit rate on top of this for 60% crit rate. You're home free. You're home free if you're a whale. Or on Epstein's Island. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to have, let's say, generously, 20 to 30% sigil yield if you're a new player. If you're a new player, you're going to have 21% sigil yield. Maybe 30% at best. At best, you're going to have 30% sigil yield as a new player. That's going to be, let's see, 15% crit rate. Plus 10, 25% crit rate. 25% crit rate. So, on top of your base crit rate, it's going to be like a 30% crit. And that's very, very low for most players. Now, if you believe in Jesus, maybe you don't care about it. You're going to crit anyway if you believe in Jesus. If you believe hard enough in Jesus or in Jesus, it doesn't matter. Now, Ceaseless Warlust. So this is her mandatory Enlightenment because it makes her strike and defense draw long blade perish or draw short blade devour. So this is very, very, very important for her to ensure she gets the Great Blade, whatever it's called, the Great Blade Reckoning. I already forgot the name of it. Great Blade Whalefall. Oh, it's a Whalefall, not Windfall. The text was so fucking small, I just fill in the blank. So Whalefall. Double the damage bonus provided by... So this is needed. I don't need to explain why. You need to draw the card. Your deck is big. You have a big fucking deck. A big dick. So you need to draw your like big dick cards. Double the damage bonus provides. So this is her E3. I would say it is very important but not mandatory. Not mandatory to play the unit. To play the unit as in have fun. Mechanically speaking. Mechanically speaking, the only benefit to here is Deadly Duel is free. The first Deadly Duel every turn is free. Mechanically speaking, it doesn't change anything about her kit. It just makes her do double the damage from Great Blade Windfall. So, let me go over her AA before we go over her OE. So, we're going to talk about the whale portion of Lotan and her kit and the numbers I calculated here. So, the Unrivaled. The Unrivaled is her plus 12 effect. Deadly Duel now grants Lotan 50% more Alimus, and the per Alimus final damage bonus from Deadly Duel and its maximum cap are both increased by 50%. So, yeah, her plus 12, it solves her issue. Because I don't know if you guys realize this. While I was going over her kit, they're designing units to be more on the whale side. Pontos didn't need his plus 12 that badly. He doesn't benefit from that much. But G-Lotan does. Because you notice, when I was going over her kit, her base Alimus is 200. And while Deadly Duel generates 30 Alimus, if you steal 10 Alimus from every team, you need to fill up 200. I don't know if you guys can do the math here. I don't know what guys you guys are using or doing the math here. So you need 200 for just the base Exalt, and that's 30. 30 mana per Deadly Duel. Assuming other Awakeners have Alimus. They might not have Alimus. Assuming other Awakeners have Alimus, that's you need to play this 6.5 times, basically. 6 times 3, 180. 6.5 times for base Exalt. Play it 6 times. Yeah. You need to have Zaya's Will to have 6 mana without the base. So this gets her more Alimus to fill her up faster. It might only take 4. And the per Alimus final damage bonus from Deadly Duel and its maximum cap increased by 50%. Yeah. So right off the bat is 50% more without playing the gimmick. So that means it's 140%. So it buffs it super hard. It just makes her extremely smooth because you're going to rouse her anyway. I am against this, but they need people to wail out regardless. So if she is busted, I'll probably pull her. But for that far, I don't know if I'm going to pull her or if I'm going to skip her. Because I have my 10 D-Tide teams. And if she needs this much investment, I'm very conservative with my pulls. Unless she's better than a current team that I use. I'll probably skip her, but I'll try her out. If she's meta, as in extremely strong, I'll have her replace a team. Because she has potential to be extremely strong for other endgame content. So let me go over her wheel before I discuss more of her whale. So this is her wheel, by the way. This is her wheel. It is basically very good for other units for strike. The wielder's strike crit damage plus 75%. Now, there's a lot of units that can use this wheel. Like G-Lotan, Manchette. That's basically, there's not actually a lot of strike units. I lied. I was about to say there's a lot of strike units. No, there's only like 2 big strike units. G-Lotan, Manchette can use it. But who can use it? That Exalts. Manchette, G-Lotan. Yeah, this is a pretty niche wheel. Because they don't have the increased base element. So it's not that big. Because it increased her Exalt crit damage by 20% of their base element. So it's 100%, so it's 200%. It's 200% once you get the full thing. At turn end, we have to wait fucking 5 fucking turns. You have to wait 5 fucking turns. Most mob battles end within like 1 to 3 turns unless you're playing stall. It's 5 fucking turns, dude. And the Sigil Yield is a really niche wheel now that I go over it one time. Because it doesn't even provide crit rate. Like, you have all this crit damage, but all this crit damage doesn't matter if you don't crit. And there's no auto crit strike unit if off the top of my head, there's no auto crit strike unit that you would meme and put this on. I'm just going over my brain real quick right now. Yeah, I don't believe there's an auto crit strike unit. Yeah, this wheel is useless on anyone but G-Lotan. And it might not be that good on G-Lotan as well. I'll test a few alternative options, but the only good option is this. Actually, yeah, you need it because of the bottom option for her insanely broken Exalt if you want to whale her out. Okay, let me go over some quick math for you guys here that I already did. Let me pull up my spreadsheet again. Yeah. So luckily for you guys, I'm making a video. I'm probably gonna release it like Friday or Saturday. Hold up. She's a strength scaler. And I'm already making a video. I already have the final data for all this. Where I did the strength scaling tier list. And I made this took me like 7+ hours. So I tested every unit and how they function with strength on their optimal burst turn. What does this mean? It means how much damage they deal with that much starting strength on their optimal burst turn. So I'm going to do the same with G-Lotan, and that will determine where I place her on my tier list. Now, the best unit is Calf. She can do 2.5 million damage on an optimal burst turn while providing defenses. Next best is G-Lotan, which with half the amount of strength did 1.3. Technically, it does more, but she doesn't provide the defense. She provides the healing, and healing gets reduced. So G-Lotan is next best. So these are the two best. That's why G-Lotan is still meta, unless you're fucking retarded. So, in case you're curious on my next video after this. So, let's go back to the kit. So, that's what she has to compete with. So, I'm going to test her out and see how she compares to those. So, I did the math on the Mundus Severance. So, Mundus Severance is her Exalt. Remember, it's a guaranteed crit on the enemy with the highest damage. Now, let me go over the cons of her Exalt. It's not an AoE. That's the biggest con, and it doesn't have overflow damage. But flares. It hits a target who does the most damage. Sometimes the mobs does more damage than the boss. So, it's no AoE, but it does so much damage. So, you're going to have situations where you can't really use it that well. And it's so hard to charge up in the first place. It's extremely hard to charge up. And the wording consumes whalefall. I don't know why I keep saying windfall. I'm just so used to it. Consume implies that you need it in order to exalt. So that's another downside. If it's full, you can't just exalt first turn. You have to make the whalefall, which is also pretty bad. But the pros here. High-end Spectrum. So, when the boss is killing you and your family, it is great. This is dog shit for new players. If you are a new player, this is so bad. Because remember, if you're a new player, let's take this logically. For all the idiots who follow other guide makers here. If you're a new player, you're playing easy content. You're playing story mode. You're just starting out playing the game. Are you getting me right now? On easy content, the boss has less HP, and guess what they do? Less damage. Are you following me? If they're doing less damage, that means we're getting less of a damage buff from her Exalt. So she's the reverse Doricine. It's how I put it. Doricine destroys early game easy content. G-Lotan, if the boss is destroying you and your family, she does a lot of damage. So that's the opposite effect of Doricine. She's going to be a bit weaker for most of you new players here, as opposed to other carries. Even Doricine can one-shot enemies. and it takes longer to charge her up. It takes a lot, actually. Now, high end of the spectrum. I did the math here. So, depending on how it's calculated, I trust in the dev's text. So, what it reads is, for each +1 damage Great Blade Windfall or Whalefall is causing target do for you, the Exalt does 75 more damage. So, the high end of the spectrum for Train and Hard mode is doing 10,000 damage to you. Or units that does a shit ton of multi-hits that can scale up to 10,000 damage. Now, in Train mode, and certain bosses in Alert 5, if you're playing it wrong. Let's say Pikmin is one that comes out. Pandia, Arachne boss in story mode. And G Murphy boss. They can all hit 10,000 damage to you. They can all hit 10,000 damage. That's the upper limit, unless you are getting destroyed in certain story factors. So, in those modes, very high-end spectrums, you're going to have 2,500 is, easy number, times 75. So it's going to do 187,000 additional damage for her Exalt. And it's going to be multiplied by the final damage and the crit damage. So this is going into the millions. So this is going into the 4 to 5 million range once all the multipliers come into effect. Once all the fucking multipliers come into effect, this is going to do like millions and millions of damage. It's going to be the strongest Exalt in the game if the boss is doing 10,000 damage to you. Now, on the low end for endgame, the low end, let's just take this D-Tide for example. Helot boss, 1,800 damage for her first hit. The low end, 1,800 damage is generally 1,800 to 2,000. So, we're going to simplify the math real quick. So let's do 200 damage. So that's 200 damage bonus for 1,800. Times 75 equals 15,000 damage. So 15,000 versus 187,000. So this is the big difference. So if you're a new player playing easy content, you're just starting out in the game, 180 damage they're going to do to you, 180, maybe sometimes they do like 900. So it's going to be like half of this for if they're doing 900, obviously. So 7,500, very low, and it gets less and less and less the easier content you do. But again, if you got her E3, now this is almost 400,000 for the high end. 400,000. That's double the damage. That is so good. This is very good wailed out. For most players, C tier. This is why I say she's fucking C tier, unless she builds more teams for new players. It does not. This is C tier. Good wailed out. Now, why is she one of the probably S tier wailed out here? S tier wailed out. Her overexalt. Her overexalt is probably one of the strongest overexalts in game. When I read this, I couldn't believe my mind. I couldn't believe it. Because you can ignore the strength bonus. Ignore everything. Before dealing damage, gain strength equal to the extra damage Great Blade Whalefall causes the target to deal for you. Now, when it says gain strength, this is permanent strength because it's worded the exact same way as Dorothy's Exalt is. This is permanent strength because it doesn't say temporary. I don't know if the developers realize it or they're doing this on purpose. If they're doing it on purpose, gain strength equal to the amount of extra damage Great Blade Whalefall is telling target to do you. We just did the math here. Like, if it's 2,500 damage, if it's an end game boss, You get 2,500 strength on her over Exalt on an endgame boss? That is literally 25 times more strength than Dorizin's Exalt eating a baby gives you. That is literally the strongest strength scaling or fastest strength scaling ability in the game. If you're fighting an endgame boss that does that much damage to you. Again, it's very rarely. And let's say on the low end of the spectrum here. The low end of the spectrum for endgame, it's 200. It's 200 for 1800. It's 200 for 1800. So it's yeah. Let me double check to make sure. 1800, 225, 10,000. I'm just want to make sure my math is correct here. Like it's so high that I don't believe it. It's so high that I don't believe it. No, 25% of 10,000 is 2,500. I'm sorry. It is just so big that I have to double check my math real quick. To make sure I'm getting this right. I need to double check because I didn't use the thing. Let me double check. Real quick. So 1,800 times 0.25, 450. Okay, this is slightly off. So it's 450. 450, and it's going to be 30. It's a little bit more than 30,000. Yeah, let me see. 450 times 75. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was a bit raw off on this, but it's still pretty impressive. So let's see. 450, 33,750, and done. Yeah, it's fixed now. Yeah, and done. So it's 450 strength for a typical low alert 5. So 450 strength, which is really good. Really good for Overexalt. But Overexalt is hard. So in bosses that wreck your fucking face, 2,500 strength. And Exalt double strength bonus. That's insane strength scaling. That is just insane. I don't think they realize this. I don't think they realize how much damage fucking endgame bosses fucking do if you play the mechanics wrong. Because there are a lot of bosses you can play the mechanics wrong and buff the boss to go over 10,000 plus. So that means like if you're fighting, let's say, Pandia, for example, or certain bosses that wreck your face, you're gonna get like thousands and thousands of strength. You're gonna get thousands and thousands of strength. It is insane. And you probably want to buff the boss's damage sheet. You're gonna die though. So you want to have Vuln applied to you. You want to be vulnerable. You want to be fragile. So yeah. But it's her OE. You need 8 copies for it, and you're gonna have to charge up the 400 alienness. So it's gonna be hard to trigger. Very, very hard. Yeah. So that concludes my review of G-Lotan. Like, I think, unless she's like very good for new players, I don't think she is. I don't think she is for new players. Even her Soul Forge is just money gain. And Mana Severance and enjoys an additional 500 to 1,000% strength bonus. Again, it's insane scaling. Yeah, I just can't recommend this for new player. I would have to place her C tier. I would have to place her CC tier for my general tier list. Yeah, I have to. Because there's so many downsides to her kit. Again, unless this is broken, I'm going to test a few things. If it becomes smooth, like she cannot be BB tier. Either she works very well, all investment levels, and she's automatically S tier throughout game broken, or she's only game broken, wailed out. If she's only broken, wailed out, then C tier. If she can be broken at E1, E2, then I would place her A or S tier because she provides no utility. She needs to do a shit ton of damage, E1, E2, for me to even recommend her for new players.